Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's just jump right into things today, because we are tackling a subject that is deeply, and I mean genuinely, unsettling. When most of us hear the phrase Men in Black, what's the very first thing that pops into your head? You instantly picture a blockbuster Hollywood movie, right? We all think of Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones walking in slow motion in those slick suits, wielding those flashy memory-erasing gadgets, and dropping comedic one-liners while defending the Earth from comical giant alien bugs. It's fun, it's lighthearted, it's action-packed. But today we are peeling back that shiny comedic veneer to expose the original, truly horrifying folklore that inspired it all. We are going to completely deconstruct a myth that has traumatized actual witnesses for decades. Because the real Men in Black in the source material, trust me on this, they aren't the good guys. I want you to just listen to this for a second and really let it sink in. If you continue, I'll cause your heart to vanish. Think about how terrifying that is. That is absolutely not a snappy line from a science fiction movie script. That is a direct, chilling threat allegedly made to Dr. Herbert Hopkins, who was a highly respected psychiatrist all the way back in 1976. And I'm sharing this right off the bat because it perfectly sets the incredibly dark, ominous tone of our source material today. The entities in these original accounts, the ones knocking on doors in the dead of night, they didn't come to crack jokes or save the day. They came to induce absolute, paralyzing terror. Section 1. The Hollywood Illusion. So, to understand how we got from heart-stopping life-or-death threats to popcorn-munching comedy, we have to look at pop culture versus reality. There is just a sheer, incredible whiplash between the pop culture perception we all know and the original lore. As we discussed, we're so used to the Hollywood Men in Black, those heroic galaxy defenders with a comedic tone from a massive film franchise born in 1997. But the original folklore Men in Black? They were completely different. Witnesses described them as having cadaverous, dead white skin, and bizarre, unnatural, awkward gaits. They absolutely did not protect civilians. In fact, it was the exact opposite. They stalked them, they threatened their lives, and they violently erased evidence. Even the 1990 comic book that the movie was very loosely based on was much, much darker and more violent than the film. The historical reports we are looking at describe a kind of psychological stalking that leaves witnesses profoundly traumatized. It's almost as if they've been hunted by a psychopath rather than interviewed by an agent. Section 2. Origins of the Terror. Let's travel back in time to see exactly how and where this nightmare actually started. When you look at the timeline, the chronological escalation of the Men in Black phenomenon is incredibly rapid. It's kind of wild, actually. It didn't take centuries for this myth to build up. It literally exploded in just a few short years right at the dawn of the UFO craze. We start in 1947 with an obscure local report, and then it escalates to a major silencing event in 1953. By 1956, the myth is fully commercialized into a mainstream book, and finally, it's codified into comic book pop culture by 1990. So let's break down those crucial, terrifying early days. Our story kicks off in June of 1947. This is actually just days before the famous Roswell incident, to give you some context. A man named Harold Dahl was out on a workboat near Maury Island in Washington State's Puget Sound. He claimed to witness strange, saucer-shaped aircraft hovering in the sky above him. And according to his account, one of these objects allegedly exploded, raining down strange, hot debris into the harbor, debris that tragically killed Dahl's dog. But as crazy as that sounds, the really scary part happened the very next morning. A mysterious man, dressed entirely in a stark, dark suit, showed up out of nowhere. He took Dahl to a diner in Tacoma and explicitly, coldly threatened him and his family. The man told him, "You will not speak of this to anyone." This moment is absolutely massive because it marks the very first documented instance of the so-called "stop it or you'll be sorry" syndrome perpetrated by a man in black. But the crucial pivot point, the exact moment the Men in Black truly became legendary, happened a few years later in 1953 with a man named Albert K. Bender. Now, Bender was no casual observer. He was the passionate founder of the International Flying Saucer Bureau. He was highly invested. He was just about to publish an issue of his magazine, Space Review, where he boldly claimed that he had finally, definitively solved the UFO mystery. But right before it went to print, everything changed. Bender was visited by 3 terrifying men in dark suits. And here's the crazy part. We don't know exactly what they showed him, and we don't know what they told him, but the effect? It was instantaneous and absolute. Bender was so completely consumed by sheer, unadulterated fear that he immediately shut down his entire organization, just closed up shop completely. This single, terrifying event cemented the concept of the Men in Black as shadowy, omnipotent silencers lurking within the UFO community. Section 3. Anatomy of an encounter. So what is it actually like to stand face-to-face with one of these beings? Let's dive deep into the specific, bizarre, and, quite frankly, horrifying traits reported by alleged witnesses across the board. Now, if these were simply government agents, let's say regular guys from the CIA or the Air Force trying to keep Cold War secrets under wraps, you would logically expect them to try and blend in, right? You'd wear a normal suit and act like a normal person. But witnesses impartially describe a deeply, deeply unsettling list of non-human characteristics. It's like they're trying to pass as human but getting it completely wrong. Witnesses report cadaverous, incredibly pale skin that looks like it belongs on a corpse. They report a complete unnatural lack of eyebrows or eyelashes. Some even describe eyes that seem to physically bulge or strangely glow in the dark. Their voices, frequently described as robotic or entirely monotone. It's as if they are mimicking human speech but just don't quite grasp the underlying melody or emotion of it. They have this awkward, disjointed, swivel hip walking motion, moving as if their legs and torso are somehow operating independently of each other. And perhaps most disturbingly of all, they almost always leave behind a distinct, acrid smell of sulfur. To truly understand why these physical traits are so paralyzingly effective, we need to talk about a psychological concept known as the Oz factor. This is absolutely crucial. The Oz factor is defined as a feeling of deep weirdness, numinous dread, or dreamlike isolation. Academic researchers who study these encounters note that when the Men in Black arrive, the environment around the witness often goes completely, eerily silent. All the background noise of the world just drops away. It's a surreal, terrifying perturbation of reality. The witness feels this sensation of intense wrongness, a gut-level, primal feeling that the entity standing right in front of them fundamentally should not exist in our world. And it's this exact feeling that paralyzes the victims. It locks them into a state of sheer deer-in-the-headlights terror that makes them entirely compliant with whatever the Men in Black demand. To show you exactly how this Oz factor plays out in a real-life scenario, consider the 1966 encounter of a man named Woody Durenberger. Woody was just a regular salesman driving his route home through West Virginia when, out of nowhere, a spacecraft supposedly landed right on the highway in front of him. A man stepped out. He was wearing a black topcoat that was zippered down the front, which revealed this strange, glistening material underneath. But here is the most horrifying part of the story. The man had an unnatural, wide, spooky grin completely plastered on his face, and he never once opened his mouth to speak. Instead, Durenberger heard the man's voice directly inside his own head, completely telepathically. The entity introduced himself as Indrid Cold and simply stated, "I am a searcher." And then right before leaving, Cold dropped the ultimate terrifying threat right into Durenberger's mind. "We will see you again." When Durenberger finally made it home, his family reported that he looked completely drained of blood, literally as white as a corpse. Okay, let's fast forward to 1976 and revisit Dr. Herbert Hopkins, the psychiatrist we mentioned at the very beginning of this explainer. Because this case, it is deeply, profoundly weird. A man in a crisp black suit arrived at Dr. Hopkins's home. Just like the others, he was completely hairless, no eyebrows, no eyelashes, and had that signature dead white skin. But what terrified Hopkins the absolute most was the man's mouth. It wasn't normal. It was just a thin slit, heavily smeared with bright red lipstick. And as this entity spoke to the doctor in a flat, robotic monotone, he casually wiped his mouth with his hand. As he did, the lipstick smeared away, revealing that he actually had no lips at all underneath, just smooth skin. The entity then calmly instructed Hopkins to look at a coin he had in his pocket. Without even touching it, the entity somehow caused the physical coin to slowly fade out of existence and completely dematerialize right in the palm of Hopkins' hand. That was the exact moment he delivered that horrifying threat about Hopkins' heart vanishing. Unsurprisingly, the deeply traumatized doctor immediately went and burned every single one of his UFO files. Section 4. The demonic connection. So it begs the question, are they really extraterrestrial? Let's completely shift our focus for a moment to look at how researchers and even theologians actually interpret these incredibly bizarre encounters. Because there is a truly fascinating, undeniable parallel between modern alien reports and ancient historical myths. Think about it. The modern UFO, men in black, use telepathy to invade your mind, they reek of sulfur, and their main overarching goal is to aggressively stop human beings from accessing forbidden knowledge. Strikingly, these are the exact literal traits of medieval demonic visions. Back then, people reported pale ghouls that smelled of sulfur who were fiercely dedicated to enforcing silence and hiding spiritual truths from humanity. Many paranormal researchers and even ordained theologians argue that the modern extraterrestrial narrative is really simply a brand new technological mask for ancient demonic folklore. Whether you personally believe they are aliens from another galaxy, top-secret government agents, or literal demons from hell, the undeniable fact is that both of these phenomena tap into the exact same primal human fears of the unknown. Section 5. Architects of the Myth. Now, we must pivot to deeply examine the human mythmakers who actively helped shape, spread, and perhaps even invent a lot of these terrifying stories. Enter a man named Gray Barker. In 1956, Barker published a wildly successful book called They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers. Remember Albert K. Bender, the guy who shut down his UFO bureau in sheer terror? Well, Barker took Bender's story, sensationalized it, and turned it into a foundational text for conspiracy theorists everywhere. Barker's book is almost universally credited with catapulting the Men in Black out of the realm of obscure local gossip and dropping it squarely into mainstream global UFO folklore. He effectively took a vague sense of dread and he gave the paranoia a name and a very frightening face. Which naturally brings us to a highly critical question. Knowing that an author heavily profited off these stories, we absolutely have to ask, but was the terror entirely fabricated? Was the whole shebang literally just a lie designed to sell books to a gullible public? Well, the answer as presented by our sources is a really complex, messy mix of fact and fiction. Let's break this down impartially. First, we know for a documented fact that Gray Barker actually collaborated with a man named John Sherwood to intentionally publish entirely fake Men in Black hoaxes in the late 1960s. Why? Just to drum up interest and keep the mystery alive. Second, as the folklore organically spread from person to person, the physical traits of the Men in Black predictably grew more and more exaggerated over the decades, taking on a life of their own. However, and this is the absolute crucial point you need to understand, there was a very real kernel of truth buried in all of this. Real, documented government initiatives in the 1950s, like Project Grudge and Project Sign, actively and aggressively sought to discredit and silence legitimate UFO witnesses. The government legitimately wanted people quiet to prevent widespread Cold War panic. So, what happened? Actual, genuine government skepticism mixed perfectly with intentional theatrical folklore hoaxes to create the ultimate enduring conspiracy cocktail. Section 6. Paranoia and Pop Culture. Let's bring this narrative to its conclusion by analyzing exactly why this myth absolutely refuses to die. The Men in Black myth survives and thrives because it is fundamentally built on the bedrock of human anxiety. It feeds off the lingering, deep-seated echoes of Cold War paranoia and a very real, very justified deep distrust of government authority that firmly took root in the mid-20th century. Furthermore, it feeds our own deep psychological need to somehow make sense of the totally unexplained. Think about it. If you see something genuinely impossible up in the night sky, it is strangely, ironically comforting to believe that there is a highly organized, secret organization out there managing it all, even if those managers happen to be utterly terrifying. Whether they are real, flesh-and-blood extraterrestrials, shadowy but human government agents, or just powerful psychological projections of our collective anxiety about being watched, the Men in Black represent the ultimate, terrifying other. And that brings us to our final provocative thought for today. We know for a fact that authors like Gray Barker embellished these stories. We know that deliberate hoaxes were planted to sell books. But if the myth was entirely manufactured by UFO researchers to just sell magazines and make a quick buck, why do the terrifying sightings actually continue? Why do completely credible people, even to this very day, still genuinely report the overwhelming smell of sulfur, the eerie robotic voices, and the incredibly paralyzing, silent dread of the Oz factor? It really leaves you to wonder, what is actually out there, really knocking at the door in the dark? What you should take away from this explainer today is that whether the Men in Black are physical beings of flesh and blood, or just phantom manifestations of our collective human paranoia, The pure, unadulterated terror they inspire in those who face them is 100% real. Thank you so much for joining me today, and hey, keep your eyes open.